the unfired kiln of the Pythagorean number, and a dreaming interval of the music of the spheres, and a canticle of the sacred ratio. The harmonic cosmos, and the silence that vibrates between the notes, and in thou, who heard in the blacksmith's ringing. Who pressed thine ear to the proportioned weight of hammers on the anvil, and forsooth found in the interval gate to what the number actually is. Genesis of form itself and ratio. Sleep of the unexamined world. By the discovery that the octave is the string held half. The fifth is 2-2-3. And all of this is not arithmetic like the shape of what makes beauty. Why of the consonant chord that can clean escape from discord into resolution, geometric end. Inevitable is the theorem that bears thy name. Philosopher, mathematician. Which relation beyond the ratio, the relation, not the thing, but what between the things maintains the bond. For chaos, an enlisted be, yes, ADM. Bevraheld. Pythagorean. Vegetarian. The food inside. Who's transmigrating soul? Who held that bean fields hid the mortuary of the rain parading? Small sounding the hand of the one original number. The loose spheres in their celestial motion overrun with music dantian, unprepared. Ears cannot receive because the habit of the sound has rendered it invisible as the habitually green. Above the lonesome crosshatch of the cosmic meal, always and in, is the thing most present and in most mist, and in most thoroughly surrounding the life that Dion does know. It is ed in the harmony that it maintains. Distance right between the wandering stars and the beautiful focus. Something so warm. Who held thee? Three musics fallen in their place. Musica universalis. spacious, the cosmic. Musica humana, face to face with. Ocean wind, frame where bone and sinew. Pulse and breath obey the seven ratios that break and that smolts. Came to being too. Play of instruments grow, and lowest, kind, yet pointing chapter through its realm maybe. Tuned and disciplined mind approaches she proportions and that in bone and human skill, what the planets sound in theirs. Listen, not with what you king your ears. Kritikraft. Highly shimbray. Slide to the script. Pythagorean comb, vashed in that gap between. Harmony of fifths returned, contained fasty row of that slights might these foretell. Cosmic imperfection, Pythagorean. That the number promised in pain. He besessed. Flow. Human and made. Pours this doing to fight. Science, imperfection that be vague, that be stasis and been. Purely, be filled and finished and then resolved. The call me. Itself in tasked malaise were gone on the music and in. Thus heard the sage the hammers and their truth, thus sounded the spheres in their unmeasured measure. And all the silence between the notes forsooth was beyond a treasure. Pythagoras cuts the anvil / spheres on the unreceived frequency and sacred ratios. Cosmic music, the comma that proves the universe is slightly off in the blacksmith's shop. Pythagoras walking past, he hears the hammers, different sizes, different pitches, stops. Burroughs says the philosopher stops outside the blacksmith shop because the hammers has found the correct research methodology. He's always already happening in the street outside the store. You just have to stop walking long enough to hear what the working world is demonstrating for free to anyone not too educated to listen. He went inside, weighed the hammers, found the octave, 2-1 the fifth. Gysin says the ratios in the blacksmith shop are the same ratios in the planetary orbits, are the same ratios in the proportion body, are the same ratios in the consonant chord. The universe runs on the same numbers at every scale. This either the most important discovery in the history of thought. Most important confirmation of what was always already there, waiting for someone to stop outside the blacksmith shop and count. Pythagorean number is not measurement of quantity. Number is the structure of reality. The ratio between things is more real than the things. Burroughs says the claim that the ratio is more real than the thing is the most radical statement in Western philosophy. It says, what matters is not what you are, but how you relate to what you are next to. Not the note, but the intervals, not the planet, but the distance, not the life, but the proportion of the life to the lives around it, which is either Pythagoras or the cut-up, which is also about the interval, not the word. Left column, hammer striking the ratio into the air string held half, producing the octave sphere sounding. In the unmeasured measure, human ear habituated to the constant music, righty. Air striking the ratio into the hammer octave, producing the half-held string measure, measuring the unmeasured sphere's music, constant to the habituated human ear, fold here. No notes, that makes the notes musical rather than merely sequential sounds. Is what Pythagoras found in the blacksmith's shop, and the cosmos confirmed at every scale. From the hammer to the orbit, the fold is always the ratio, the fold is always the between musicae universalis. The music of the spheres, each planet a note. The intervals between orbits corresponding to musical intervals. Saturn lowest, the slowest, the heaviest note. Jupiter next, Mars intersteering. Gysin says the solar system is a chord that has been playing since before the first ear evolved to hear it, and will play after the last ear dissolves. It is playing now at a frequency the body is too habituated to receive. The body is too habituated to feel the planet rotating underneath it. The constant is the invisible. The Pythagoreans understood this and made it the center of their cosmology. The most important thing is the thing you can't hear, because you've been hearing it your entire life. Burroughs says, have been trying to hear the music of the spheres. By cutting the music I can hear in two pieces, to find the frequency underneath that the cut-up briefly exposes. When the familiar sequence is interrupted, and in the gap between the expected note and the unexpected one, you sometimes hear something that was always there behind both of them, which may be the closest I ever got to Pythagorean. Outside the blacksmith's shop in Tastu, in prison writes about music. I am waiting for the execution. I am writing about the thream. I cannot hear it, but I know it is playing. In the proportion of my grief to what I am, grieving for natus and the ratio of the lost to what remains, the music of instruments. There is no instrument but the mathematics. The mathematics plays in the silence of the cell as accurately as any instrument. This is what Pythagoras meant. The number is reeled in the string is gone. The number remains, the Pythagorean comma, the gap between the mathematics and itself, cycle 12/5, arrive back at the octave, but not quite. Higher, by a comma, 5314415242888. Burroughs says the Pythagorean comma is the most important imperfection in Western music. The mathematics that should close perfectly doesn't quite close. There is a gap between where the cycle of fifth and where the octave says it should be. And every tuning system in Western music is a different political decision about how to distribute this imperfection across the 12 notes, so that no single key is too badly out of tune, which is also the description of every functioning political system and every functioning relationship. How do you distribute the inevitable discrepancy so that no single interval bears all of it? Geisen says the comma is the that the universe left in its own meal. The system that almost closes perfectly but doesn't is the system that has one next note. Perfectly closes, comma, the whole is the life in the mathematics, the slider resolution that keeps the cosmos from achieving the silence of the complete. Bach solution, the well-tempered clavier, distribute the comma equally across all 12 semitones, each fifth slightly flat, each key equally out of tune, each key equally usable. Burroughs says equal temperament is the democratic solution to the Pythagorean. Everyone gets the same small imperfection, no key. Is pure no key, he's unusable. The whole system is slightly but equally wrong. Which is how most functional democracies work. And what Pythagoras would have thought of the solution is unclear. He probably would have preferred the just intonation of the pure fifth, which sounds better in one key, and terrible in the others, which is the aristocratic solution, and also how most aristocracies work. Bach took the comma and made it into music by distributing it so evenly that it became the character of the system rather than its flaw. This is the cut-up applied to imperfection. Try to remove the discrepancy, distribute it until it becomes the texture of what you're making rather than the problem in what you're making. Pythagoras remembered his past lives. Was there as Euphorus, who recognized his own shield in the temple at Argos. Burroughs says the philosopher who claims to remember the Trojan War from the inside is either the most honest person in ancient Greece or the most ambitious. Or both, which in Pythagoras' case is the same thing. The soul that migrates through enough bodies eventually migrates through enough perspectives to understand the ratio between them, which is the Pythagorean number theory applied to reincarnations. It is not the lives that matter, it is the proportion being. It's the music. The individual lives are only the notes. He forbade the eating of beans. The Pythagoreans, various reasons offer, they contain the souls of the dead. They resemble the gates of Hades. They disturb the dreams, Geisen says. The prohibition on beans is the most human thing about Pythagoras. The man who heard the music of the spheres in the blacksmith's shop was also afraid of legumes, which tells you that the cosmic and the anxious coexist in the same philosopher. The sphere music and the bean prohibition. Are both Pythagoras, the ratio of the cosmos, and the specific fear of the dead. Field crop. I stay most of vines. Finding the cosmic ratio in the blacksmith shop and the gateway to Hades. Was just the man who stopped outside the blacksmith shop long enough to hear that the universe was running on same numbers at every scale, from the hammer to the orbit, and spent the rest of his life trying to describe the ratio between the note he heard and the silence it emerged from, which is the description of every serious and philosophical project that has ever been attempted. And none of which has fully closed the Pythagorean comma of the gap between what was heard and what could be said. Shimusikos was just the name for the frequency that the habituated ear cannot receive. Because it has been hearing it since before birth, and the only way to hear it is to interrupt the habitual sequence long enough for the constant to become audible in the gap, which is what the cut-up does, which the commas, which is what death does, which is all serious interruptions of the expected sequence have always been for. Hammers still ringing the ratio. In the blacksmith shop, spheres still playing at the frequency. The habituated ear cannot receive. The commas still flow between where the cycle arrives and where the octave says it should. Bach still distributing the imperfection evenly. Rain dried across all 12. Prometheus still writing right in the sigh about the three musics with no instrument but the mathematics which plays. As accurately as any string. The soul still migrating through contortion of lives, not the lives bursting in. Raindrop fly, flow.